Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Search to Sold, Marketing Strategies for Dentists, brought to you by Podium and Great Dental Websites. My name is Annalise Cavisto, and I'll be moderating the conversation. Joining us for the webinar is Jeff Gladnick, founder and CEO of Great Dental Websites, and Taylor Cutler, Marketing Director of Podium. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent to all registrants' inboxes in the next 24 hours. If you're having trouble with the audio, try refreshing your browser and make sure the volume is on and turned up as well. At any point during the webinar, please submit any questions in the Q&A box on your screen. We'll get to as many as we can throughout the webinar, or we will follow up with you after the webinar if we cannot get to it live. So let's get started. I'd like to start off by asking you both why websites are still important when there's so many things like Google My Business, social media, community groups, and websites. Jeff and Taylor, I'll let you take over.
Who wants to go first?
Well, you take it, Jeff.
All right, so that's about websites. I guess that's fair. So the question is a good one. You know, why do you need a website when there's a lot of other options to find a dental practice? And I still think a website is valuable. And there's a couple reasons for this. One, Google My Business and Facebook and lots of other things have provided a lot of different ways for patients to contact you, but you still need something that's just yours that allows you to present information just the way you want it, which I think is more valuable in treatment acceptance for larger cases. If somebody just needs a cleaning, it may be enough for them to find the nearest dentist by them using Google, check out the reviews, and hit go. If the place that allows you to book online or just call the office. But if you're doing a larger case, if you're looking for Invisalign treatment or orthodontic work or implants, it's probably going to be a little bit more important to you than just proximity and availability. And the best stats that I have that I've been able to find on this from Bright Local's 2019 survey about review data are telling us that about 32%, almost a third of all people visiting reviews, the next thing they do is visit the website. So for at least a third, and that's the highest option, by the way, of what customers do after reading positive reviews. That's a general stat, too. I bet it's even higher for healthcare versus restaurants or a haircut or something, which obviously wouldn't be that important to me. But I think visiting your website for the foreseeable future is still going to be necessary for you to get across the personality, uniqueness, and benefits of your practice and avoid being commoditized and just, by availability and location.
Jeff, you can still go to the barber shop and get a good shave. You still have use for that.
I can. It just seems pointless.
No, I would like to echo kind of what you were saying, Jeff. This is the thing: is there are a lot of different things that will come before having a website, and it's really good for you as a dentist. However, a lot of those things are going to point towards your website, and especially if you're some sort of specialty where you're not just doing cleanings and very basic things. And most dentists, right, are going to be doing things beyond simply a cleaning. You really need a website to have that information on there. And going from a search engine perspective too, websites are still extremely relevant, and that is the place you're going to be able to pull in all that information, right? So if you specialize in whatever it might be, and you want to pull up and ahead of your competitors, you need a website that Google's able to pull that off of. So websites are still extremely important and extremely valuable. Now, again, going back to your GMB listing and your Facebook listing and whatever you might have on the internet on your online presence, those, as good as they can be, will still they need to point somewhere, right? They need to point to a website where people can find out more information. So, for example, our customers here, the dental customers that we have, after 3 months of taking care of the reviews and really boosting their GMB listing, still see a 97% increase in clicks through to the website. So if you didn't have something that you really wanted to represent your brand, you need to have that website. Now, again, going back to the current, pandemic we're facing, right? People more than ever are going to be on your website than they ever were before. And you need to treat those customers who are landing on your website the same way that you would treat them as if they walked right into your front door to your practice as a new patient, right? And you want that same feeling, that same awesome care that you and your front staff will be giving to that new patient on the website. They need to have that same feeling because, again, this is a trend that was already happening but has only been catalyzed by the current situation, that you need to show what experience you'd give offline in that online presence now.
Yeah, one thing to add is I don't even think that previous experience of walking into the practice can even be had, especially if you're a new patient. I know a lot of our clients, and I want to say it's the majority, are doing like curbside check-in. You just walk straight into the treatment room. I don't know if they even are accepting walk-ins right now. It's a good question. But that's all the more reason to, the website might be the only opportunity you have to make that impression.
Yeah, and currently here in Australia, just to give a little bit of some local insight. So here right now, the ADA has put us back at level 1 restrictions, meaning you can, have cleanings, you can do everything you would normally do with your patients, but you still have, like Jeff was saying, right? People can't just walk in anymore to your front office. They still have to wait out and, message back and forth at the clinic, have a phone call, whatever it might be, before they're allowed into that clinic, because there can only be one person in the waiting room at a time. So like you were saying, Jeff, you need to treat this patient on your website as if they were coming in, because the fact that they honestly just can't come in right now, and we don't know when they will be able to.
Yeah, exactly. So what's our next question? I feel like we nailed it.
Well, going off of that, you guys are talking about different ways of communicating with the practice. What are some ways that you can implement the communication types and make it easy for patients to communicate with your practice via the website? I know you guys mentioned that there's other things like the GMB, but is there something that you guys recommend on the website to make it easy for those curbside check-ins, for texting or for booking online, et cetera?
Yeah.
Taylor,
so if you don't mind, I'll take this one to begin with. So the thing you need to realize is your website is a place to house information, right? To make it easy as possible, as convenient as possible for your patient to find out what they're looking for, right? Now, once they've found what they're looking for, whether it's learning more about a specific kind of treatment, maybe pricing, whatever that might be, you need to have a really easy and convenient way for them to communicate with you. Now, there are a lot of different ways of doing that. Traditionally, people would have forms on their site, and there still are definitely a need for having a form on your website. But we found that overall, consumers are much more likely to convert into an actual paying customer if you have an active live chat reaching out to them on their website. Now, traditionally, there's a lot of problems with a live chat. One being you have to man it at all hours and times of the day, which can be difficult. And so we recommend having a text-based web chat where basically you have that live chat reaching out to the customer, but it's going to convert that into a text message conversation. And that gives you as a practice time to communicate back and forth with that customer. And now they have a textable landline for your practice that you're able to communicate back and forth. And they're not having to find somebody else's different email. They don't have to be connected to the internet, right? And they're now having that text message conversation back and forth with the practice. And that'll continue, throughout their entire lifetime with the relationship with the practice, right? Where they're able to communicate from that texting line. We recommend that you're available on all communication channels, not just texting. So that would be a best case scenario from the website. Again, convenience is the biggest factor here. So if they find you from your Facebook page and for some reason, maybe let's say they don't go through to the website and they message you through Facebook Messenger, they're messaging you there because that's their preferred method of communication at that moment. And so you need to respond back in that same channel. What we don't recommend is having a place where a patient fills out information and you call them right off the bat, right? People, if they message you in a certain place, it's because they want you to message them there back in that same place. And we don't want to be mixing these things up where people are getting different information from different places, right? If somebody emails you, you want to email them back. If somebody texts you, you want to text them back. You wouldn't say, hey, since I sent you a text, I want you to now do a Zoom call with me right now.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Annalise, sorry, I cut you off. Did you want to mention something?
Oh, I was going to ask you, Jeff, based on what Taylor's been saying, how have websites evolved to allow for this different type of communication style for patients?
I mean, we're trying to accommodate everything, essentially. So I know we have a lot of clients using integrated chat or unified chat products, and I think Podium's does integrate Facebook and other forms of like off-website chat avenues. Is that right, Taylor?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Okay, yeah, and so that and what you said is correct. Like if somebody's texting you, like, you know, you don't just call them up right away. They may be at a movie or something, or they may be watching, you know, something on TV with their family, and they're supposed to be paying attention, but they're off looking at the dentist. Don't blow up their cover, or they're at work. You know, don't out them just because they were kind enough to inquire at your office. So whatever the patient wants is kind of what we're trying to provide them. So if there's a chat product, we'd like to integrate it, and as long as it's being, you know, dealt with well by the office and not neglected, then we're all for it. I would also have the phone number online and a click to call. That may seem obvious, but a lot of practices get that wrong, or they don't make it a click to call, and like you got to cut and paste it with your thumb, and it's a pain in the neck, and there's a mistake, and why add that little bit of friction? And the other thing is a contact form. We still see a lot of practices just have like an email address on the contact form or page somewhere. And don't do that. Just put a contact form. You don't know when someone is going to be at their friend's house or on a public computer, or just happens to be somewhere where they don't have immediate access to their email. And it may not be often, but these little things just start adding up, a few percent here, a few percent there. That can move your grade from a B to an A. So as many different contact options as possible is what we like our clients to do, that they, as long as they can handle, or they have the tools that allow their front desk to handle everything at once.
Great, thanks. And I realized that we skipped over the important part of this part of the conversation, which is how are people actually getting to your website? So what are the important parts of search? And we mentioned Google My Business. So let's start there. If we're trying to make your website or your practice visible, what are the important elements on your Google My Business page, and why should you keep that up to date?
You got to start calling on volunteers. You're just like throwing a piece of meat in the middle of the room.
Jeff, why don't you start with this one then?
So, well, from our perspective, I mean, recently with the COVID-19 thing, Google My Business expanded the fields. They had telehealth options. So we've seen that communication medium come out of nowhere, where before it was very eschewed. Then the other thing we see a lot more mobile searches than we used to in prior years, and now people are doing voice searches. So being first may be the difference between victory or defeat versus being second in prior search mediums still gave you a chance. But with voice search, it just kind of goes directly to the winner. So that's been the recent stuff that we've seen. What can you add to that, Taylor?
Yeah, I might share my screen right here, just so you guys can kind of see, because this is something I definitely would love to go over. So let's see here. Okay, we're looking at my screen now, right? So you should see a local search on my screen, right, where it says best dentists near me. All right. So the thing to know of what's changed with the way your patients are finding your practice is everything has gone way more mobile than in the past, right? So search engine optimization, SEO, is something we've all heard of. It's been around for actually a pretty long time now, where it's not this new concept of something you need to worry about. But what has changed, right, the biggest difference between today and, let's say 12 years ago, is the fact that everyone now has a supercomputer in their pocket where they're able to find out what they want, when they want, how they want it, right? Which has now led to people wanting the fastest information and the easiest way possible. And so they'll do a search like that, right? Dentist near me, best dentist near me, dentists in Melbourne, dentist South Yarra. Keywords like that are way more important to be focusing on local search optimization. So this is a search I just did. And one thing to note is a lot of dentists, put a lot of time and money into buying AdWords with Google. And again, that's not a bad thing. It's definitely a good thing. But notice most people are going to skip straight past these listings right here on Google. And what they'll actually do is come down to the Google Map Pack, which pulls up in about 98% of searches, right? And this is where they're really making their decision off of. Now, let's say you're a dentist, right? And you're looking to grow your practice, you want more patients coming in. If somebody hasn't ever had an experience with you or have a personal recommendation that they're 100% positive of, or let's say you've actually done a good job marketing, and I don't know, I'm not saying you should go get a billboard, but let's say somebody sees a billboard and they think, okay, yeah, next time I need to get my teeth checked, I'm going to go to that dentist. Best case scenario, they're going to remember your name, and that's it. They're not going to remember your phone number, your address. They're going to just remember the name. And what are they going to do with that? They're going to Google it. So when people are making a decision off this map pack by doing a search like that, or maybe even searching your name, they're going to be making their decision-making power of where they're going to choose right off of here before going then through to your website, right? So in here, it's a pretty obvious choice, even though there's an ad right here. This Freedom Dental, dentist in Melbourne, they have 144 reviews and a 4.2 star rating. So I personally feel the most connected to that. And they're also probably pulling up simply because of the fact that they have good online reviews. Here in Australia, I just did this search in Newcastle, best dentist, Newcastle, New South Wales, and the good dentist is what pulls up. And you can see how much better of a job they're doing with their online reviews, right? They have 137 reviews, a 4.9 star rating, and they're really the obvious choice, because if I scroll through all of these here, most dentists have 415 at a max, and then all of a sudden the good dentist has 137. Make it the really obvious choice. So here, I'll stop sharing my webcam now. But the thing to take away is that people care a lot more about these searches being done from their smartphone, and it's way more important to be focusing on that local aspect, right? What's going to pull up when somebody pulls up a specific area?
Now, Taylor, you just brought up reviews, and in the US, we can go pretty wild with how we ask for reviews for all of our practices, but I know that APRA has some thoughts on reviews and makes it a little bit more difficult for Australian practices to collect those reviews. And I know we as a company are also dealing with that for our clients in Australia. How do you get around that, and how do you get those reviews? Because 144 reviews means that they are probably spending a good amount of time and energy on marketing there.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So yeah, the biggest difference, right, is in the US, you can go, buck wild. You can get as many reviews as you'd like on any site that you can possibly have. Now, the rule here with APRA, it's been a little muddied with the national law. So the national law code says that you are not allowed to have customer testimonials on anything that's medically related, right? So I can't have, if I'm a doctor, for example, a customer saying, Dr. Taylor did such a good job fixing up my knee, right? Or anything like that. I can't have that on any place that I have control over, right? Any clinical information, anything like that. And so that puts dentists in a tough spot, because the question is, do reviews, do they count as that? Now, again, I'm not a lawyer and I can't give any legal counsel, but what I can say is when we met with one of the directors of APRA a little while ago and sought legal counsel on this matter, what we tend to find is that dentists should stray away from having reviews on any place other than Google. Now, the reason for that is that you don't have control over your Google listing where people leave reviews, right? So if people leave reviews on there, you can't get them taken down very easily, right? You don't have control over that. Whereas Facebook and other sites, you don't have to have reviews on your Facebook page, right? You can take those down entirely, and that's what we suggest all dentists do. You should not be asking your patients to leave your review on Facebook, and you shouldn't be even posting the ones that come in organically. You need to take those down, or you will probably have APRA reaching out to you. Whereas dentists have been gotten a lot more leeway and flexibility with Google, simply because of the fact that they don't have control over their Google My Business listing reviews, right? They're going to be there whether they want them there or not. And so what we're trying to help dentists do, right, is simply get a proper representation of what their practice actually is. Because if they're letting them, these online reviews come in completely organically, you tend to see a really polarizing effect where it's only the people who are super motivated will leave them an online review, right? The people that are really, really happy or really, really angry. And either way, I mean, it's usually going to be more on the angry side. That's usually the person that's a little bit more motivated to leave an online review. And so what we're trying to do is simply help them say, hey, let's get all those patients who normally wouldn't leave your review to go on and leave your review and give you an actual proper representation of what your practice looks like. And most practices obviously give really good service. And so that's what we're all about. So yeah, if you're a dentist here in Australia, I would not worry about any other review site other than Google as far as having online reviews.
Jeff, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, Taylor summed it up nicely. That's more or less the advice that we're giving to our clients in Australia. I know we've done like opera cleanup projects for a dentist that got in hot water with kind of skirting some of these rules, usually by accident. And if you want to incorporate any reviews on your website at all, you just have to be very careful. They can't talk about anything clinical at all, but they can say something to the effect of like, oh, the dentist was really nice, or the office was really clean, the staff was friendly. But the moment they veer into anything clinical, you have some serious risks if you put that in a place that you can control. So Taylor's advice of keeping it to Google is the safest course.
Great. All right. So with that, so if you can have these third parties asking for these reviews, let's say that we have someone who has previously thought that they couldn't ask for reviews. What are some good strategies for them to start to get their average rating up? Let's say that they've, like you've mentioned, had those polarizing people who have left angry reviews, and now they know that they can start to work on some more positive ones. What tips do you guys have for that?
Yeah. So what I would say is you need to be asking all of your patients to leave you feedback and making it easy for them to do that, right? What you don't want to do is only ask the ones that you know are happy. And that's called review gating, and it's actually against Google's terms of service. And, we don't want to have problems with APRA, but we definitely also don't want to have issues with Google. So honestly, the biggest thing is just to simply make it easy for all of your patients to leave your review and to simply be asking all of them to leave you that feedback. You don't want to be like leading them in one direction or another. You don't want to say, hey, can you leave us a 5-star review? Just say, hey, we'd like some feedback. Here's a link to leave us a review on Google. It makes it really easy, but just by clicking on that link, it'll take you straight where you need to go. We'd appreciate any feedback you have. And simply like letting them know it's important to you as a practice to give them the best experience possible. And that also helps you as a business, right? People can have a little bit of that sense of empathy. And by sending that online review invitation to leave you a Google review through a text message is where we see the best conversion, simply because they're already on their mobile device. They're most likely already logged into their Google account, which makes it that much easier to leave a Google review.
Yeah, that's our advice too. I mean, just develop a system and ask consistently. And I know you're from Podium, Taylor, and I know we have clients that use that. I think you guys are one of the few review programs in Australia that I'm aware of. But it's imperative that the client just ask and ask and ask and ask. It's a numbers game. Very few people will leave reviews. Everybody wants to, but life gets in the way and people get busy and they forget and they don't do it. So you got to ask every single patient that comes in if you want to get a decent amount to appear.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Jeff. One thing that I failed to mention is you do want to send that review invitation to them while they're still in practice, because like you said, after they leave, they've gone on, they have other things to do. People have really short attention spans these days. And so if they're already driving home or having left your practice, it might be too late for them to really care to give you a review. So, hey, when they're leaving the practice, paying, their bill or whatever, is a really good time to send that invitation, because it's top of mind. They're right there in front of you. It's really easy for them to do that, on their way out.
Yeah, you're one meme away from getting interrupted and not getting the review. Just one little distraction.
Jeff, this is a question for you. Let's say that we have been working on those reviews and they're looking really good, and the practice still just isn't showing up well on those search results, even though they have the reviews. What are some basic things that they might be overlooking on their website that could help them attract the attention from those users?
Yeah, there are other factors that go into how a practice is ranked on, especially in the local map listings that Taylor showed us a second ago on the screen. And reviews are a huge signal to this, and one of the primary ones the practice can directly control. But there's a bunch of other ones that need to be cleaned up too. So there are things called that we call the NAP, the name, address, and phone number, and these are buried in direct online directories, business listings. Just lots of different sources of information that Google is pulling to try to figure out where your practice is and if you're still in business and if you're legitimate. And an easy way to think about this is, if you're Dr. Joe Smith and you're in the middle of like the Sydney CBD, you might be in, a tall, office building, and there might be one or two other Dr. Joe Smiths in there. And it's not easy for Google to figure out if your name, address, and phone number don't match precisely. So if you use a call tracking number, or you had a second line for your business, or you forgot to put your floor or your suite number in, Google sees, another Joe Smith. They're like, is that a fourth Joe Smith, or is this Joe Smith on the 15th floor? They don't really know. So you getting all these signals clean to Google is one of the best ways you can improve the score that they're more or less assessing you. They do use feedback from your website. So the content that's on your website is valuable in sending this, and how close you are to the person. I know we embed latitude, longitude coordinates in every single page that we're serving to Google, so it can determine where that web page kind of physically exists with the office. And I think latitude and longitude is transmitted by default on most major smartphones. So Google's doing some math in real time, trying to figure out how far away the searcher is. So basic proximity and filling out all those technical requirements, in addition to having a good review strategy, can help make or break the difference. And if you're competing with other practices that already have lots of great reviews, and you do too, it's going to come down to the technicalities for who wins.
I might add to that, Annalise.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would just say, Jeff hit the nail right there on the head. One thing I found too here is just simply having that accurate information right on your GMB listing, right? Google, when it pulls up those local search results, is pulling most everything based off of what you put into your listing, right? And so having accurate details, and like Jeff was saying, your NAP information, your name, address, and phone number needs to be consistent. So for example, if my practice is on 123 South Fig Street, it needs to be the exact same in the footer of my website, right? It needs to be the exact same on my Facebook page as well. Doesn't matter how I have that address, whether I do a capital S or spell out the word South. Again, it doesn't matter. It just needs to be consistent. Same thing with your name, right? Do you put John Smith, or J. Smith Dental? Doesn't matter. You just need to have it consistent across all those different possible places to make sure you pull up better in those local search results.
Absolutely.
Great. Now let's say that they see your website on their search results and they click onto the website. What are some of the basic things or the most commonly made mistakes that you guys see on dental websites that make it harder for them to convert those users into patients? And Jeff, I'll have you start on this one as well.
It's just usually a combination of like 10 different typical mistakes that we'll see. A lot of practices don't have a proper presentation for mobile, so they just have like kind of one view for everybody, and it's like this really tiny text, and you have to zoom around, or it's using outdated technology. There's still we see Flash websites very rarely, but Flash has been officially abandoned by Chrome and Apple and almost everything that people are still using. Your website just won't even function if you're on Flash. You have huge problems and need to rebuild your website. Not showing examples of your work, or siloing all your kind of tangential information. So if you have a landing page about Invisalign, we want to see before and after cases about Invisalign. We want to have a video of the dentist or the orthodontist explaining, what's the advantage of Invisalign versus traditional braces. It'd be nice to have FAQs or blog posts about Invisalign. And we can't have reviews about Invisalign on there, at least not in Australia, but if you're in New Zealand, you can. So having all this information kind of in one place, or at least linked from those landing pages, because it's easy to think that someone's just going to go to your homepage and then click on Invisalign and learn all about it, get excited, and contact the office. But what they're probably going to do instead is start searching around, and they may land on a random FAQ or your before and after case or your landing page from Invisalign. And that's going to be their first experience, and maybe your only shot. So having all that additional supporting information to help make the case to the patient for what could be your only opportunity can help make the difference and push up your conversion rate and help you get more patients.
Yeah, I would just to add to that, I would say, honestly, just making sure that everything you can think of is as easy as possible for your patient. Being mobile friendly, right, is a massive one, just because the amount of searches done from a mobile device are way higher than they used to be, right? It's not just on the desktop anymore. And then simply having an easy way for them to communicate with you, whether that's having that text-based web chat pop up on your website, having a form, not just simply having an email that they have to copy and paste and now send you email that you may or may not respond to. So just honestly making things as easy and convenient as possible. Just think about pretend you're a patient, right? Do a Google search, click through to your website, and try to take yourself into the mind of that patient of where they might go. Maybe have friends and family members do that and see where they might get caught up. And then you can identify, those places to make some improvements.
Taylor, I've seen some stats that if you don't follow up with a person in X amount of time, you might lose them as a good lead and they might become a patient. Do you guys have any strategies, timelines, things like that, if someone does contact you through your guys' chat functionality or other best practices as far as communication goes?
Yeah, for sure. So the nice thing about text messaging compared to a traditional live chat, so let's say they message in, they give you their phone number, and that live chat will say, hey, thanks for messaging us. We'll text you back right now. And then that text message will come back to their phone. And again, I'm talking about Podium specific web chat products, so I can't speak to other solutions. And it'll automatically say, hey, thanks for reaching out. We'll have somebody, text you here shortly. And so now they already know where they're going to expect that text message. Now, the nice thing about text messaging is the culture around it is it's not the biggest deal if it takes a half hour, an hour for you or your staff members to respond, right? People are used to texting back and forth when it's most convenient for them. Maybe it's late at night. Your wife says, hey, did you ever schedule that cleaning appointment for Timmy? Oh, I totally forgot, right? And so they go onto your website and they message you there. It's not a big deal for you to take a little bit of time to respond back to them. And then, vice versa, they'll take their time to respond back to you. But the nice thing is it's all in one place being in text message conversation. So it doesn't matter because they can refer back to the old messages and know what's going on, who they're talking to and such. Now, that being said, we definitely see more success the quicker you're able to respond, right? So if somebody has a question and you have a staff member that is logged in and able to respond back to those messages, whether they're on the go and they have a mobile app to be able to text back from, or if they're sitting at the front office, making sure that you have a staff member always able to respond as soon as possible is definitely key, because people, they want to get answers fast, right? And now they might take their time to respond back to what you say in that text message, but the quicker you're able to respond is definitely the better. And again, responding in the same place that they sent out that message to you is huge, right? So if they message you through Facebook, respond to them on Facebook. If they send you an email, respond to that email. You want to stay in that same channel. And then another good thing would be to, once they've made that inquiry, try to set up an appointment, send them an appointment or a text again through that same channel. So if they were messaging you through Facebook, you can send them a calendar invitation, right? Or set that appointment all through that same channel. And you'll tend to see people convert a lot better by doing that.
I was once told by the CEO of a large online booking company that for every that their research had led them to believe that for every contact form filled out, another 1.5 contact forms have been filled out on other dental websites. It seems a little hard to believe. He didn't show me the work on that, but I can conceptually understand when I'm making inquiries for a business, depending on what it is, I may make a few. And sometimes whoever gets back to you first, if they say the right things and the price is correct and you like what you're hearing, you may decide to book. So if I were the practice, I would certainly want to be, the first person that got the opportunity to talk to them. You might not win, but at least you won't lose by default. And I do see that, when we take a deep dive and monitor like clients' communication to work with them to try to help improve their conversion rates, you'll sometimes see people, get back to people, but it's too late. They already found another dentist. So yeah, the sooner you don't have to stay up till all hours in the morning answering texts at 4 a.m. Don't go crazy, but the sooner you can do it, the better.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that I don't expect texts back immediately, but I was like, if I call someone, I don't leave a voicemail because I'm really bad at answering calls from unknown numbers. But I think with each of those different types of technology, they can expect different responses and response times. Another thing that I know that we've looked at a lot, and I see it on the Great Dental websites, and is we're seeing an increase in people adding payment portals to their websites and ways for patients to pay their bills online. I know that's going to keep increasing with teledentistry. So what are some ways that you can set your website up, and what programs can you use to accept those online payments? Taylor, I think you guys had something that you offer for that. And then Jeff, we can talk about how it can be implemented on the website.
Yeah, this is kind of good timing. So as far as the website goes, I'll let Jeff kind of handle that a little bit more. But let's say, so one thing that we've been able to offer in the US for a while now is the ability to send a text message request for a payment, right? Now, that actually hasn't been available here in Australia, and it's funny that we're talking about this now until yesterday. So now all of our Australian customers can get Podium payments set up where simply you can send a text message to your customers, right? And then they can pay right within that text message. They just click on a link and it gives them the ability to use Google Pay, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, whatever they have on their phone to pay, or they can simply enter in a credit card. With contactless payments these days, not being able to really do those things where you're physically taking somebody's credit card or whatnot, has made things a little difficult for some people sometimes. And so using something like this makes it a lot easier. I mean, the one thing you don't really want to do is call somebody and ask them to read you their credit card number out loud. I mean, it doesn't feel very secure. It's kind of archaic and people don't like doing that. And mobile, payments are extremely secure and it makes it a lot easier. So again, that's a really good use case for patients maybe who haven't paid that, it's an easy way to make payment collections because simply maybe they just haven't had the opportunity to, and it's a good way to make those collections and make sure that you're paid in full with all of your customers is by being able to send that text out, especially if they're not physically in your presence. When they're in the practice, it's a little bit different and on the website. So I'll let Jeff kind of respond to that.
Yeah, the Australians I feel like are years ahead of us as far as seamless digital payments are concerned. Every time I'm in Australia, usually about a month of my life every year, although I don't know when the next time they're going to let me in the country is since I'm coming from the US. But every time I'm there, I present my credit card and it's just like this comedy of errors as they're just like slapping it against the little payment system from NAB or whoever they have. And then I'm like, oh, sorry, it's a chip. You got to insert it. And then they insert it and they're like, all right, just put in your PIN. And I'm like, no, it's going to get worse. And then the thing just starts spitting out a receipt for me to sign because I have an American credit card. And they all just look at me like I'm some relic from the past. So anything that our clients can do to encourage online payments and just, seamless collection of payment, we're all for, and we'll work with them to integrate into their website in some sort of prominent place. Usually we'll have like a patients section or a finance page or something like that, or if you had to add a link to the contact page, just to make it easy for people to be able to find it, or sometimes even a pay my bill link in the upper right corner of the page if the practice uses that quite frequently. But being able to text somebody a reminder is nice trick too.
Awesome. Yeah, I had my first experience with that text pay thing when I took my dog to the vet last week, and it was really simple. I just sat in my car and filled it out, and then they gave me my dog back after I paid.
A bit of a hostage situation.
A little bit, but luckily she's my favorite of my dogs, so I paid the bill and got her back.
It's like a mechanic's lien on your car. It's like,
yeah. Well, hopefully the dentists don't hold children or loved ones behind the practice doors until you pay. But
yeah, that's going to lead to a bad review. Don't do that.
Yeah. So let's say that we've got this patient and they've booked their appointment. They've been really happy with the communication. They found everything they've needed on the website. They've had a successful first visit. What do you guys recommend for recall and making sure that those patients come back to you rather than getting distracted by someone else or finding a different dentist in between those 6 months? Taylor, if you want to take that off?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say you need to keep them engaged by whatever means necessary, right? So for example, automating it where every 6 months you say, hey, we don't have you on a calendar for your next cleaning. You can do that here. Just click here and, you can set up your appointment or text us back when you're available. Simply doing things like that make a huge difference. Because again, I think if there's one thing that's hard to remember or schedule is simply going to the dentist, right? And I'm guilty of that. I feel like everyone is. I've gotten pretty lucky where my apartment here in Australia, there's a dentist actually down in the lobby of our building. So I don't have a really good excuse for not going to the dentist anymore. But I feel like most people, they forget. And that's honestly the biggest thing. So just keeping them engaged by, whatever ways you can think of, whether that's through social media, whether that's through just making things easy for them. Again, giving them that textable phone number for your practice is huge because they can save that on their phone. They can have your practice name saved and know that they can just reach out to you there. And that's a really easy way for you to communicate with them. And yeah, we would definitely recommend, sending out automated things, even simple things like wishing them a happy birthday, sending them a happy birthday text or a happy anniversary, whatever those might be. People, it might not seem like it's a big deal, but it makes a big difference to people. And it's simply a way for you to be on their mind and be like, oh, wait, David's dentistry just texted me happy birthday. I totally forgot to schedule, that cleaning. I'll go ahead and text him right back.
Yeah, I think all the major PMS vendors in Australia, Dental for Windows, SOE, Practica, and even Core Practice have some sort of like patient reminder feature built in to try to get you to reschedule treatment. Ideally, you should be scheduling this with the patient while they're still in the office. If they're in a hurry, it may not be possible. You can't force somebody to do it, or they may not want to for some reason. But you should make every effort to follow up with them, as he said, by any means necessary: phone, email, postcard, text, whatever you need to do. In the meantime, trying to keep in touch with them via email newsletters, making them aware of your social media presence. If you're actively posting to Facebook or Instagram, if you're putting funny dance stuff on TikTok, just put a little link in your email footers. So whenever they get any kind of email communication from the practice, they're seeing little links to social media. We typically will include social media links on the website too. So if they want to engage with you or follow you on those platforms, they can. And then, but the main thing is try your best to schedule them in the office while they're still there. That gets me every time.
Yeah, those automations are honestly pretty easy to set up, right? And like you were saying, most practice management softwares will allow you to have those automations set up where you can send those out. And again, just remember to keep things really personalized, right? The better, the more personal, the better. And again, that doesn't mean that you're manually having to do that every single time, but having that pull of that information from their patient record. So it's, saying, hey, Jeff, happy birthday, or hey, Jeff, looks like you're due. Just so that, the more personal, the better, and the more likely that they'll come back to you.
Great. Thank you, guys. That sounds like a solid plan for bringing patients back as well. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to add that I didn't ask you during this, or should we turn it over to questions at this point?
I think I'm good over here. I don't know if Jeff, if you have anything else that you wanted to add.
I would just say to try to express yourself and to be as unique as possible on your website. recording a little video of yourself in the practice is one of the better ways to do this. But buying dental services and engaging with a dentist is a very personal and unique experience. You're not buying bricks or hardwood flooring. You're going to have this relationship with this provider, hopefully for many years. A lot of people have a phobia about going to the dentist, and anything you can do to break that ice and get them to, find a connection with you is good. Make sure have custom written copy and a little video content, show off a couple of your cases. That'll make a big difference in standing out from the crowd that may look all very similar. Try to be unique and stand out.
Yeah, I mean, convenience is key, right? Making things as easy as possible for your patients, wherever it might be, and again, take yourself through your patient experience from beginning to end, right? How are they finding you, right? So we talked about, pulling up higher on those local search rankings on Google, right? So that's a factor of being convenient, right? They pick the one with the highest rating. That's the top of the thing because it's just simply the fastest and easiest one to find. So thinking about that and pulling up there, that's convenient. Being convenient on the way that they can reach out to you on your website, that they can schedule bookings, that they can get reminders, appointments, making things as easy as possible on their side, and also figuring out a way to make it really easy for you as a practice with solutions on software and website providers. And then all the way again through to payment. I would say payment is the most painful thing that we have to do as consumers. Doesn't matter what it is. It's really fun looking at that car, taking that test drive. It's, a lot of things are fun. The most painful part is forking out the dough. And so, again, making that as seamless and painless as possible by making it easy for them. So again, I would just say that the biggest thing you can do to keep them coming back is make it so easy that they would ever dare to want to go to another competitor simply because the fact that there's effort required in that. People these days are just so used to having things how they want it, when they want it, as everything's at our fingertips, and by facilitating that, you'll ensure that they just come back to you because you're the obvious choice.
Great. Thank you, guys. And if anyone has forgotten their questions during this and thinks about it later, what's the best way to contact each of you? Jeff, do you want to go ahead and give your email address or a way to contact?
Yeah, you just go to our website, greatdentalwebsites.com.au. You can also email me at jeff@greatdentalwebsites.com. I'm in the US version of that. So greatdentalwebsites.com.au or email me at jeff@greatdentalwebsites.com.
And Taylor, how's the best way to get in contact?
Yeah, so same here. So you can just go to podium.com and watch a demo. We have that web chat right there that you can message in, and we'll text you back and forth. And that's usually the best way to reach out to us. You can also email me at taylor.cutler, just my first last name, like we have here on the presenter slide, at podium.com. And actually, we have a textable number here for our office here in Australia directly. So most people on here are Australian dentists. So you can text us here at 0478-189-947. You can use that number. Again, you don't have to. You can just go through our website and it'll go to the same place. So we'll be able to text you there too. So either way works.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. Like we mentioned, if we didn't get a chance to answer your question throughout the webinar, we'll be following up with you individually, or you can reach out to Taylor or Jeff and get questions directly or questions answered directly from them. So thank you so much for attending today. We hope you took something away from this presentation, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again.